Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Lexa Peterson, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Commander Mark Rowan. We warmly welcome Air Commodore Mark Lax, retired, representing the Air Force Association. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Visitors who are able to do so, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed at the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record that they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament. Flowers of the forest, wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Flight Sergeant Douglas George Barrett. Douglas Barrett was born on the 7th of October 1917 on Kangaroo Island, South Australia. He was the second of two sons born to George Barrett and Jane Turner. When Douglas was a baby, the family moved to Tarlee, South Australia, and Douglas attended the Riverton Public School. Douglas later served with the 9th 23rd Light Horse Militia and was engaged to sweetheart Gwen Molyneux. At the outbreak of the Second World War, he was working as a farmer. He enlisted in the Royal Australian Air Force on the 28th of June 1941. Called up for service the following February, he was given the rank of Aircraftman 2 and posted to No. 4 Initial Training School at Victor Harbour. After completing basic training, Douglas Barrett was mustered as a wireless operator, air gunner, and was posted to No. 1 Wireless Air Gunner School at Ballarat. This school trained recruits in wireless operation, including sending and receiving messages by Morse code, setting up wireless equipment, and eventually employing these skills from an aircraft. Barrett's next posting was to No. 3 Bombing and Gunnery School at West Sale. He was awarded his Wireless Operator Air Gunner's Badge on the 10th of December 1942. On the 9th of January, he embarked at Adelaide for overseas service. As part of the Empire Air Training Scheme, he was one of almost 27,500 RAAF pilots, navigators, bomb aimers, wireless operators, air gunners, and flight engineers who, throughout the course of the war, joined Royal Air Force squadrons or Australian squadrons based in Britain. There, he undertook training to adapt to local flying conditions, and on the 11th of May 1943, he was posted to No. 27 Operational Training Unit. It was here at RAF Lichfield that Douglas crewed up. This was a self-selection process of placing all the different trades of aircrew into one room and allowing them to sort themselves into crews. Now a temporary flight sergeant, Douglas's job was wireless operator, and his fellow crew were made up of 4 British airmen and 2 other Australians. Together, they attended No. 1660 Conversion Unit at Swinderby, where they learned to operate on the 4-engine Avro Lancaster heavy bomber. On the 27th of August 1943, after 18 months of training, Flight Sergeant Douglas Barrett was posted to No. 44 Squadron, Royal Air Force. Over the next few months, his crew completed 11 operations to bomb targets in German-occupied Europe. On the 25th of November, Douglas was posted to No. 463 Squadron, Royal Australian Air Force, based at RAF Waddington in Lincolnshire. The squadron formed part of Bomber Command's No. 5 Group, conducting nighttime bombing raids over Germany. Flying with Bomber Command was dangerous duty. 44% of airmen were killed. These high rates of loss were daunting, particularly as men had to fly 30 missions to complete a tour of operations. The risks were particularly true for Douglas Barrett's squadron. No. 463 sustained the highest loss rate in proportion to its size of any of the Australian bomber squadrons. On his 7th sortie with No. 463 and his 18th sortie in total, Douglas's aircraft went missing during a raid on Berlin. After taking off from Waddington just before 6 p.m. on January the 27th, 1944, nothing was heard from the aircraft and it failed to return. An anxious wait began for families of the crew. An investigation later revealed that Lancaster Juliet Oscar Lima was caught in heavy anti-aircraft fire and exploded in mid-air. The wreckage crashed 16 kilometres southwest from the centre of Berlin. None of the crew survived. Douglas Barrett was 26 years old. Soon after the crash, 6 of the crew were buried by the Burgermeister or Mayor in Waldersdorf Parish Cemetery. But wireless operator Douglas Barrett's body was not amongst those of his fellow crew. After the war, a witness reported that Barrett's body had been found more than 20 kilometres away and buried in the Soviet section of Berlin. In late 1946, the remains of the 6 identified crew were exhumed and reburied at the British and Commonwealth War Cemetery in Berlin. But Barrett's grave was lost. Berlin was in ruins and the city fractured into different zones of occupation. In 1948, the Air Ministry's Missing and Inquiry Unit Berlin launched an investigation into the whereabouts of Barrett's remains. The investigation was unsuccessful, and it was concluded that Flight Sergeant Barrett had no known grave. Today, Douglas Barrett's final resting place remains unknown, and he is commemorated on the Air Force Memorial at Runnymede. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, amongst almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Flight Sergeant Douglas George Barrett, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as they that are left are old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them. lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today. We wish you all a very pleasant